some other folks have joined that aren't y'all.
Hey.
So, good evening, everyone. Tonight is Woke Wednesdays. We do this every single Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you so much for tuning in. Can we please put the volume down? Yeah. So tonight's topic is violence against women, part 2. I was asked earlier why we're doing a part 2, and it's because we can never talk too much about this subject. We need to talk about it more, in fact, especially men. But tonight, if we could maybe introduce ourselves and tell the folks who you are, what you're about, what you're doing with your life, inspire somebody.
Okay. Hi, my name's Patty. I'm studying at FIU. I'm studying psychology. In reference to the topic violence against women, I recently did a research project on gender-based violence in the context of Indian families. So I'm really hyped tonight to talk about this.
Oh.
Also,
I'm like, she did a research project. My name is Stephanie. I am a graduate of FIU, alumna, and I'm a publicist, and I didn't do any research, but I know some things.
You're a woman.
But I'm a woman who's experienced some violence. So, yes, I'm here.
All right. My name is Mariama. I am a digital media strategist and a communications specialist. I also host a podcast called Chakras Inside Eyes along with my best friend, Keelana Shad Bishop, who is also fucking amazing. Shout out to you, Key, because I know you're watching. I also work for a nonprofit organization that's about uplifting Black and brown youth in Miami-Dade County, trying to create safe and supportive schools. In particular, there are a lot of Black girls in Miami-Dade who are violently assaulted by administration and security, and nothing is ever really done about it. Their experiences are swept under the rug. So that's where I'm coming from tonight, just representing young women who are voiceless and often feel silenced in their struggle.
My name is Marisa. I am a graduate student here at FIU in the master's program for higher education administration, and I also graduated my undergrad here from FIU. I did international relations with a certificate in women and gender studies, and I'm here because I'm generally interested in the issue as a woman, and yeah.
You're also an international student?
Yes, I was born and raised in Spain.
Okay.
So we have a diverse panel of young, brilliant, courageous women. So thank you so much, all of y'all, for being here, and thank you everyone for tuning in. If this is your first time tuning in, please feel free to drop comments, questions, concerns. If you disagree with anything, please feel free to voice your opinion, and we will make sure to read your comment and take it from there. So last time we did the show, last time we did this topic, I was like really quiet the whole time. And tonight I'll kind of be quiet too, unless y'all have a particular question from a male perspective. Obviously not every male thinks like I do. That can be good or bad. So I'll give you my honest and true opinion. So to start off, when we ask the question, violence against women, or when we bring that up, what is the first thing that kind of comes to mind? It's like the first thing that comes to mind. And anyone can feel free to start.
Well, I think the first thing that comes to mind for me is just gender-based violence in general. And with that, I mean, obviously, like, domestic violence. I was doing a little bit of Googling. And, you know, I didn't realize 1/3 of women that are murdered by intimate partners. And then I think that after a class I took in, like, my sophomore year, the next thing that comes to mind is the fact that it's such a global problem, and it's not just like domestic violence that you see on TV, but it's like genital mutilation and
Infanticide.
yeah, and you know what I mean? And then when you think about dowries and the fact that those are still like very prevalent in other countries, I think the fact that women across the globe are experiencing so much violence and are targeted, and because they're such easy targets based on their situations, it's kind of eye-opening to see how greatly that spans and how much that encompasses.
I
I feel like no, when I hear violence against women, I'm always like, damn, that's like my entire existence. You know, it's walking down the street. It's not like, oh, dark alley, this man is gonna rape me. But you're like, you know, he could do harm. And it's the fact that I think automatically that he wants to do harm. You know, there's that. That obviously comes from catcalling. I'm gonna say sorry, mom, a million times. This is part 1 right now. Like, I'm sorry, mom. You know, you shouldn't. You're taught not to like talk back. Just kind of ignore it. I lose it. I get so angry because I feel like it is such an aggression to like just, you know, I'm walking down the street and you're making me feel threatened because you can. You know, catcalling, little things like that. Conversations with coworkers, simple things like that. That like a woman isn't assertive, they're bossy, like that stuff like that goes into microaggressions and then like beyond. So
Yeah, I think kind of like going off of what you're saying, it's like when I think of violence against women, it's like it's a systematic problem. It's a you know, we live in this patriarchy that it just perpetrates a violence against women in every country, in every situation, in every society. And it's like you said, it's like our whole lives just because we're women, you know. And it ranges from like catcalling to like labeling and gender roles and gender stereotypes to like female mutilation and like child marriages and things like that. So
quickly, what does patriarchy mean? I'm not sure if everyone knows what that means.
Well, patriarchy is a political and social system that is created and dominated by man, and it conforms and accommodates man, and so like it just it discriminates and oppresses women as like the consequence.
It's a system that continues to feed into men's weakness and insecurities, which they tend to be often, and thus we all suffer. Primarily the women who have to carry those insecurities and burdens to then bend and will to the men and his bullshit. That's actually what patriarchy is. That's what it feels like to actually have that
definition.
every day.
A definition.
It's actually what it feels
does
like.
become that.
It does, and it shows. I'm not to cut y'all off. Just like when I hear violence, I also think of just the simple existence of bringing you ungrateful niggas into the earth, right? Like the fact that when we bear children, even the process of that feels like a medical condition and not actually a natural thing, like bringing life into the earth. There are women who die in hospitals.
Yes,
and I'm in a hospital paying you thousands of dollars for you not to catch these things. You get to the hospital and you're literally treated like you're a problem, like your being here is a situation for the world, right? Not only did we have to think about like, are we gonna have a job when we get back? How are we gonna work? Having to like leave our children earlier than there should be left. Like there are people who talk about their dogs being able to breastfeed longer than women should be allowed to, and we're talking about a whole human. So I just feel like violence also just shows up immediately, the birth. Like your birth into earth is automatically violent. So I just like, it starts from the base of our existence, really.
I want to touch on a point you just said, because a lot of times I feel like talking about it in the United States, we're pictured as whiny, right? There's always the, well, if you want equality, freedom, you want to see oppression and violence, go to Saudi Arabia. There's always like that argument, right? But I actually read a research article recently about Latina Mexican immigrants, Mexican women, and then American women, and their perception of pregnancy. So culture-wise, right, pregnancy is celebrated in the Latin culture, whereas in the United States, it's like you said, it's like an illness. Like you're sick, your body, you're in pain, you know, you can die, all of this. So they saw like Mexican immigrant women who had just immigrated within the first 5 years and gave birth had normal birth weights. Anyone after, or a Mexican American woman, had lower birth weights than like the immigrant because of the perception of their pregnancy. You know? So I add that because in a cultural context, it's always like, you know, because you're in the United States and I can go get a job and I can get a car, I shouldn't feel this and I shouldn't speak about this, when it's untrue. And it's not that the rest of the world is just being less fair, because, you know, yes, machismo does exist, but there are women who have pros and cons everywhere. And that's a problem.
So, okay. I'm thinking about what everyone's saying, because I don't think guys are used to hearing this type of stuff, and if they are, it might be from one person. Not.
When they say it, they're so attacked.
And it's like, no, I didn't mean this with this. Well, yeah. So I'm so thank you for opening up.
I always just like to point out that it's a joke until it's your mama. That's what I like to say. I like to say my pain is also It's a funny. My rape jokes are funny. Sexist jokes are funny. You're talking about my body. Your actual life, thinking you have access to me because I am a woman and female body. That you can touch me is a joke until it's your mama. So let's actually have a dialogue about your mother, and then let's see how you actually feel about sexism and racism and all of that, and how it all shows up when it comes to patriarchy and toxic masculinity. I literally will stop you and be like, but your mother though, right? Like it's cool,
because
but your mama.
Because it feels distant. Like it feels like something. You know, when things don't personally and directly affect you, they don't have as much power.
Right.
And so when it's somebody like your mom, who obviously like men are very, very strong-willed for, it doesn't feel like a real thing until you. There are things about your mom that you don't even know have happened. Like there are things that you will never know. There are times that your mom has probably been sexually assaulted or
and she
hopefully not, but these are things that you don't know and don't understand and don't even think about because, like I said, like they're not directly in your face or they're not super close to you. And so when you put it in perspective of like, what if this is your mom?
What if this is
Party
your mom?
foul. Party foul.
Okay.
Or like, what if this is your little person?
It's my fault. I'm sorry.
We're getting really intense in here.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
He was like, hold on, not my mother. Not my mama though.
No, but you know, like until it's your mom or your girlfriend or your wife or your little sister, it doesn't feel like a real thing, which I think in itself is kind of a problematic concept, that it has to be someone who's super close to you for you to respect it or for you to change your perspective.
Right.
For you to change your perspective on it.
And I guess that's also my point, is that I don't think that men don't hear the conversation. I think they don't want to realize their own privilege in masculinity and patriarchy and their top and how it works and how it doesn't work to our benefit until it's super personal.
Yeah.
I don't feel like they don't hear this shit. I feel like they don't listen, which I think is just a natural, normal problem that y'all have anyway. Well, it's neither here nor there.
You're being a nag.
Yeah.
And I
Just
think it's like you're annoying.
Yeah, and I think it's also like it's so sad that like men don't realize the issue until like it's also a little bit about them. You know, like it's like, you know, issues like women's issues is not an issue until like it's like related to them through like their mom or their sister or their daughter or whatever. You know, it's like, I don't know, like the women's, a woman identity just as a woman, it's like completely dismissed and disregarded until it affects them indirectly as well. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's just also it's a sad reality.
Yeah.
Well, it's also like my huge thing is like we talk about this, and I think a solution to ending violence against women or decreasing it is talking about it. But when do we actually like speak to a man and ask them like, where does your masculinity stem from? Something that simple, you know. Like I have brothers, and I honestly don't think they needed me to be born to be the guys that they are. Really, I've always seen them just like be respectful towards women and things like that. And I know like they don't have like this power, like this masculinity about them that I see in other men. You know, that type of like power control, because also violence, rape, it's about power over the woman's body.
And weakness and insecurities.
Exactly. And that's something that men don't do. They talk about with themselves? Do they have dynamic relationships and friendships with their friends like women do, that they can have these conversations? Probably not as common.
But this is where I think patriarchy and toxic masculinity actually really hurts men, where like it does an actual disservice to allow men to be human, right? To have feelings, to have emotions, to be able to articulate them, to feel safe and comfortable, because they this is not an all lives matter type of conversation, but I will throw in that they suffer as well, in the sense of like patriarchy does just as much damage. Now I won't say just as much. It does damage to them to make them this way, in my opinion. Like it doesn't help being able to have this conversation. It doesn't help shape men to be able to be like, wow, like let me not touch you in the club. I don't know you. Yeah. Like let me not force my mouth upon yours, even though I met you 20 minutes ago and I'm clearly like not here for this moment. Like I feel like it's an assumption that they need to have this aggression, that like, and that's what
that aggression is like,
and it's taught.
Yeah,
it's taught. Boys will be boys. It's okay, don't cry. Men don't do that. Men don't do that.
Yeah.
Says who? My nigga, why are we still talking about this? It's like not 1802. Like you clear, this has not worked, right? Like, I think it's very clear that there have been whole wars because men don't know how to address their emotions. Like, you actually destroy colonies and people's lives because you're upset. Because homeboy came up in here and was like, the house is dirty. Like I obviously not that, but, literally wars.
Little ridiculous things that cost a lot.
Every war. Think about a war, a violent war between nations that was actually started by women. I can't think of any. I want to read some of these comments real quick. Stan is saying the way you treat your mom is the way you should respect your woman.
Should be.
But even your woman, that language can be a little possessive, right? Carla's saying, but what if you never had a mom? Chasing Paper said facts. People don't realize that how selfish they are with their perspective. Quay speaks saying very true. The further along we go without addressing these issues, we lack empathy more and more. Utter Kayla saying machismo is a real thing. V Date Sky saying the best way. The Desky.
That must be boo.
English is my second language. I apologize.
Just say
the best way
she's
to change
particular.
V Tedeschi, the best way to change minds is to open up discussions. I would love to see your next podcast with men involved so they can learn the issues straight from the source. I'm trying to make that happen, but it's actually pretty difficult. Baby Lion is saying it's hard for men to be different without being ridiculed. Quay speaks saying different how.
I think when she says it's hard for men to be different, it's what she was saying about going against what society says that men should be, that you should be aggressive and you should be a ladies' man, and you should, like, these things that we praise and that are like ideals that men should look toward.
Oh my God, sorry.
that men should be. When you speak against that, or when you're in a fraternity, like, you know tons of men, like when you see your brother doing the wrong thing and you say, hey, you know, like, maybe this isn't cool, or maybe you should watch the way that we speak, or whatever, it's not received well, or you look like a punk, or you know what I mean, like, it makes you feel uncomfortable to speak up, so you just kind of like turn a blind eye to it, just like the leaked chats from here, from here, where there's 118 people in a chat and no one says anything about jokes about pedophilia and jokes about raping women, and people are laughing and going with it, even though it's clearly something that's wrong, like, or it's something that tons of people,
so ignorant. That's the thing that I feel like also with men, like, I'm convinced that they don't have dynamic friendships like women, because if I say a stupid joke to my best friend, she's gonna be like, what the hell just came out of your mouth, you know? But men, like, it's just like this very superficial level type of communication, and I see it all the time, and I bring my job into like the examples because sometimes I'm very tired of it, and I'll say something, and I heard two of my coworkers, two males, it was something like simple, like grating cheese, right? Like very simple, and one of them jokingly was like, oh, it's kind of gay, because I guess he did it in a feminine way. It was so out of context. I was like, you know what's gay? And they're like, what? Like homosexual sex. Gotta let you guys know. Like,
I guess you didn't understand what gay was.
It's so ridiculous right now. Like, you could have so much fun if you were more clever and you thought about things more. I didn't say that. I had to go to the table, you know? But, like, these are the thoughts that you have, and oh God,
and
it's
like,
so hard.
You were like, one of the questions that you were saying before we like started the live session was like, okay, so what's men's role in, like, you know, like violence against women? I feel like this is like a primarily role that men should have in this issue. It's like, what are you gonna do about hypermasculinity? You know, what are you gonna do about addressing and talking to men about these issues? Like, indirectly it's affecting you, so I feel like that's also a part, like, something that men should do, definitely.
I'm a firm believer in the people who see bad things happening and don't say them are just as guilty as the people doing the bad things. So if you are a man and you're in a position and you see a girl who's too drunk at a party, or you see your friends consistently asking for someone's number and she's clearly not interested, because if I like you, I'm gonna give you my number before you even ask me. Like, you know what I mean? Like when you see these things going on and you don't speak up and you don't say, hey, you need to chill, or hey, this is wrong, or, you know, what if this was your mom that you're clearly harassing, then you are also a part of the problem because you normalize it. And I think that that's an issue, is that men normalize these behaviors within each other, and they're like,
for them.
Yeah, and they're like, oh, we're just boys, like you said, like
I don't do that.
boys are just
so,
being boys.
You know, I don't
like,
do that.
Or locker room.
yeah,
Oh.
locker room talk, or it's not me, so it doesn't matter. But it is you because you give it an okay by not speaking up or not saying anything.
Silence can also be violence.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
literally.
but you're right.
I'm just, you know what I mean? There's been plenty of, I think we know enough experiences of people who, like, if one person in the room had just said, fam, dial it back, the situation would have ended different for the victim, right? And I don't feel like, I feel like oftentimes men end up getting to also play victim to things, to the harm that they do. And that's the thing that I think we need to cancel out. Like, that, and then just fucking look up the word consent and then live by it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand, like, I feel like, so one of the things that my dope coworkers were doing was this, trying to create a consent culture. So instead of rape culture, it's consent. So basically we become normalized to, like, asking people's permission to touch them, to, like, be in their
That's
space.
so sad that you have to even say that sentence.
Right.
God,
Because it's, you know, the opposite is, like, we wait to talk about these things till after someone is already harmed, till after the rape. When this can all be solved if it's like, actually, let me just ask you. And then if I am not able to tell you a solid yes, then I'm also not able to tell you a solid no, which means all of this shit is X'd out.
Yeah.
It's X'd out. And I don't give a fuck how hard your dick is, how far we got into the process.
Right.
If I said no, if I said I'm uncomfortable, if I'm clearly, like, trying to get out of the situation, because maybe I don't feel powerful enough to be like, absolutely hell the fuck no, back up.
Yeah.
Then these are things to consider. And I think that when people learn the meaning of consent, body language is just as strong as a verbal no. And so I think that's also part of the first step to me for men to taking this in. Because why do you want to have sex with somebody who doesn't want to have sex with you anyway? I don't get that. Why do you want to put your mouth? Why do you want to touch me? Why do you want any of this physical altercation of me needing to knock you clear the fuck out in the middle of this club because you groped my ass without my permission? It is big and it is fucking beautiful. It's also mine.
Yes.
And I don't feel like I have to explain that to you. And my anger will show, and I don't feel like a rude or bitchy because I'm clearly upset that you violated me. And I don't understand. I also don't get that, right? Like, dial it back. Dial your insecurities back. Dial the weakness that's talking to you about how now you feel rejected in the streets when we didn't have to do this. When I was gently walking down the street, minding my beautiful ass business, and you honked your horn at me, and now I'm riled up and like, what are you doing? You just scared me out of my skin.
Yeah.
What did you expect me to do with that situation?
Yeah.
I'm actually no longer interested. I think you're a creep, and I hope you go whack off to something that's actually really boring.
Yeah.
Like,
These are facts.
Yeah.
These are real facts.
There's like a little video that I saw about microaggressions, right? And how it's like a mosquito, but like
oh, I
you
did
get
see
bitten
that.
by
It's like
mosquitoes
BuzzFeed.
all the time. Yeah, I saw it and I was like, that's how I feel about catcalling and stuff,
Mhm.
and like stuff like this, because I feel like I talk about this any chance I get, because it happens so often that I'm like, hey, I was walking to work again. Hey, I left my apartment again, and this happened. You know.
Yeah. Person's a struggle.
We just didn't want him to drop the glass.
Just pour the wine carefully.
This is my first time, for the record, dropping alcohol on Woke Wednesdays.
Right.
On Woke Wednesdays.
Let's just be clear.
I'm glad you caught that.
Sorry.
Before we trail off, something you said it reminded me, like this like the arrogance that men, like, they're insecure, but they also don't know how to approach women, that they're kind of like, my gaze, you're welcome for having it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wait, say it again.
My gaze, you're
Mhm.
welcome for having it.
Yeah.
You know, like,
Mm.
hey, I had a coworker once, he got fired. Shut up. Like, he was a creepy little man, and he would always be like, hey, what's up? I'm like, hi, what's up? Like, I'm just trying to clean, can you please bust my stuff? Da, da, da. And then one day he was like, you're really difficult. He's like, you're very unapproachable. I'm like, yeah, like,
I don't want to be approached.
yeah, like, not even that. I'm like, do you need something? Like, you know, like, why you gotta approach me? And like, he kept speaking to me, but one thing he was like, women like, I don't know how we got on this topic. He's
Oh
like,
my God.
women like to be looked at though. And I was like, what? I'm like, no. Like, I'm like, do you think it's comfortable for someone to stare at you? He's like, yeah, like, I wouldn't mind. I'm like, because it probably never happens to you. You know, but he's like, no. He's like, do you not like when men stare at you? Like, I thought that was like flattery. And I was like,
No.
do you know how
No, it
disgusting
actually
it is?
is.
It's
Really
When
weird.
I walk like from this side of the restaurant to the other side, and it's like, oh, it happened the other day. One coworker was like, "That's disgusting." I was like, "What?" She's like, "Those guys are looking at you." I'm like, "I felt it. It was disgusting."
You literally
like
feel
you
it.
made me feel cringy in my own skin at my job where I'm fully clothed. Like,
and I just hate the like, he will feel like even like that power to talk about an experience that is not his. Like, are you a woman? No. So then why are you even assuming that I will like this?
He
like,
said that I was aggressive.
you've never been like my skin. You've never experienced what I've experienced. So who gives you the right to like even talk about my own experience or assume anything about it?
So,
You know?
let me read some of these comments and then I'm gonna ask you a follow-up. Baby Lion said, like if men don't act tough and hard and borderline disrespectful, they're seen as gay or weak or lame. Nice
Very
guys finish
true.
last, kind of bogus philosophy. Quay Speak said that's facts. That's the same philosophy that believes only women can be feminists. Oh, that's another. Okay. Most jokes are not funny. It's hard news. Baby Lion said, "A. Everyone is invited to the feminist party." Off issues we don't want to deal with. And Utter Kayla said, "My husband's friend said men don't get offended." I was like, "Hell yeah, men have feelings." Quay Speak said, "Are any of you ladies guilty of getting the wrong impression from a guy who's just being chivalrous? Extreme case. He's giving an example. Sharing the fact you have a boyfriend because he said good morning, smiled, holding the door."
Can you reread the question for me? Because that doesn't sound extreme.
Yeah.
It sounds actually really lame and boring and very elementary. Good morning is not a qualification to be a boyfriend.
Are any of you
So-
ladies
No,
guilty?
Like, when someone like does something chivalrous for you,
And you're like,
and
I
you're
have a
sorry, I have a
boyfriend.
boyfriend.
I'll be honest.
No, it's weird too.
I've gotten it before when I'm just kind of. I'm from North
Let
Carolina,
me-
so we open the door and
Let me speak on that.
Can chivalry also be a type of sexism?
I don't think so. But I think that comes from people's upbringings and your own personal beliefs. I believe in love chivalry. I love when I go to the bathroom and people put the toilet seat down. Like I'm a fan of it. I work in a co-working space, like, and you would not even imagine how many people don't put the toilet seat down. But I don't think that that's me taking chivalry the wrong way. I think that that's a behavior that I have based on my experiences with men. That they're much more comfortable leaving you alone, knowing that like you belong to someone else,
Yes, that
or
I
you're
don't
someone
like.
else's property, or okay, she has a man, so she's fine. Because I've had experiences where it's not enough for me to just say like I'm not interested, because you know I have no problem speaking up.
enough.
Like it's because it's
Yeah.
not okay, because past
actually the
experience,
thing.
yeah, because past experiences have shown me that me saying I'm not interested, or I don't want to give you my phone number, or I don't want to talk to you, or I don't even want to drink, I'll buy my own, has not been enough to thwart off these
Right.
you know, like these.
Even the
I can't
comment
think of
about
the word,
like,
but,
sorry, not interested, I have a boyfriend because you can't have friends.
Yeah.
So like even that is not actually enough these
Also,
days.
not to be dramatic, because it's really real, but women die. Like, women
No,
die
that's
off,
not
like,
dramatic at all.
Yeah, it's not dramatic. It's
There are
fact.
tons of times where women have been shot and
After saying no,
killed
God.
because they've
rejected
advances. There's been plenty of times where I've given my number out and I don't feel like it, but you're in such a like aggressive situation, and you're, because of the aggression that you're showing me on your like super strong advances, even after I've said no, I'll just give you my number because I want you to go away and leave me alone. So I don't think that it's chivalry that I'm like misreading. It's that I probably want you to leave me alone, so I'm letting you know that by saying that I have a boyfriend, because that's worked before, and saying no, I'm okay, or I'll hold my own door, or whatever, it has not.
I can even dial it back because I feel like chivalry, depending on its intention,
Yeah.
could be very different for the woman and her experience. So I also feel like let's not
Yeah.
pretend like extra good morning text with some hearts and extra shit is not about something. That's not just like, hey, good morning, did you do the homework? I need the answers. Like that's not the same thing. And so I think what is your intention behind that is easily picked up. Unfortunately, y'all are super easy to me to read. I think y'all are actually as simple as a book. I mean, really. And it's not to offend.
4
Yeah.
You know, I'm sorry, it's not to
4 chapters.
literally 4 chapters of like, I got it. Like, so the intention is usually very clear. I will say that I have friends who I personally think do a lot, because I think that in some cases it takes a lot of courage for anyone to approach you about being interested in you, right? I don't think that that's an easy task.
Yeah.
And because of toxic masculinity and because of patriarchy, it has been deemed the man's job to do that. Right? So it's actually toxic and it doesn't fucking work for you, and this is a good example of that. Because had it not been socially constructed that the idea that you need to approach me for you to feel like the fucking man, we wouldn't have this conversation. That doesn't happen. So when you approach me, it's usually off your intentions, which are usually not just fucking cordial. There's an ask at the end of it, which is a dance or my number or to go out or to do something. And I don't want none of that shit. And why do I have to be extra polite to say that?
Yeah.
Why can't it be no thank you and that's it? I don't have to smile, do a jig, entertain conversation so that you don't feel less of a human being because I'm clearly just not interested.
Because you're so sensitive that not only am I fearing for my life, but also I don't want to hurt your masculinity that's already like cracking like thin ice. So I'm gonna be like, and this is like,
right.
especially going out. I feel like in Miami we have the culture that you go out, people are drinking, people are disinhibited. I get bold. And sometimes I'm like, man, I shouldn't have done that. You know, if like somebody's touching me or my best friend, I have no problem removing your hand from me. You know,
Right.
and being like, don't fucking touch me and walking away. Any night that will end up wrong. That can end up wrong.
Right.
You know? And that's why like the first question, it's like when you think about violence against women, it's my entire existence. I cannot say yes, no, or maybe without feeling a threat.
Yeah.
Right.
Feeling something, you know?
Yeah.
Like, what is your true intention? Are you
Right.
going to hurt me because I accidentally hurt you?
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
I think my bottom line is I think everyone deserves respect, including the person that is taking the whim of trying to talk to you. So I don't want to downplay the conversation of chivalry. It's not to be like, it never happens that some girl's like, get the fuck, and you're just kind of like, all I just wanted to say was you're beautiful. Like, I don't know how, like, you're about to put hands on me. Like, I've seen that, and it's like, girl,
Yeah.
you literally could just like, nah. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I will give, you know, some credit to that argument of like, sometimes I was trying to let you know you're beautiful and you just spaz on me and I'm like totally confused and now I'm actually enraged and embarrassed, right?
Yeah.
But I think a part of that is one, a woman's experience. Two, like the sensitivity and the way toxic masculinity works is like you now feel challenged as a man versus just being like, well, actually you're just a problematic human being.
Yeah.
You can never just give the situation back to the person that's actually trying to like make this a difficult situation. Which it can be true that there are some people out here, women included, who are just like, yo, you're actually a whole lot. But to me, the times that happens versus the time that's not happening is it's slimmer.
Yeah.
So like it's like I'll give you a little bit, but I'm not about to give you this whole enchilada.
Yeah.
And I hope that wasn't.
And also like that.
I'm like, right.
But also that girl, like, you know, what has she experienced so many freaking times?
Right.
It's like, she probably snapped.
I think that when we're talking about experiences in this context, I think that as a man, it's important to understand and to acknowledge your presence. And I mean, you know what, I was listening to another podcast and a lady was talking about her husband, that he's like, you know, I understand that to a woman in night and walking across the street that I can be threatening, so I try to make sure that I take a few steps back, like just because I understand the society that we live in. And I think that concept is super important, that understanding your role, like if I am being a little more aggressive than you think that I should be, like understanding that this is just the society that we live in, that there are men who are unbelievably aggressive and unbelievably violent and react badly when you tell them no, that you're not interested, or you don't want to dance, or you don't want to drink, or whatever. I think that as men who respect women, and as men who consider themselves feminists, and as men who want to advocate on behalf of women, it's important to understand your presence and what that means during certain situations. Of course, if it's 11 o'clock at night and we're on the subway and you're like giving me a weird flirty eye, I'm gonna feel like that's creepy as hell. You know what I mean? As opposed to us being like in a cafe at 10 a.m. and we're both just grabbing a coffee. So I think that understanding the space that we're in and the context of the situation goes a long way. And maybe this is just a missed opportunity. Like, just leave it alone. But just knowing your role and knowing your place, and that's men acknowledging their privilege as men, is important in this whole conversation.
I want to read some of these comments. Oh,
You read the
go,
comments.
go, go, go.
I have a question for the men out there, because this happened the other night that I was driving and this guy next to me, he was like, hey, and I would talk straight back. I was like, what the fuck do you want? You know? And because I'm driving, like, leave me alone. And he's like blowing me kisses. I'm like, I'm clearly not interested in you. Are you good? What's up with that, guys? Like, why?
It's
call
Do you know
out
that
women,
happened
like-
to me like 3
Like,
nights
why
ago?
does that happen?
It's the honking that always gets me.
Like, do
so
you
annoying.
do you want me to be like,
so annoying?
I've in my
have
youth.
you catcalled?
In my youth. Oh, what? Yeah. What?
I feel that person is a cat caller.
He's a honker. He's like a.
So all these things.
I want to leave.
So part of this is very because I draw parallels with when I like do talks with like about race, like the way white people feel like when in a room of when like non-white folks are talking about race, and I think I'm a white person right now in the sense that I'm listening to something.
Like, shit, I did that.
Right, so I've done that. Fuck, I've also done that. But I've also been held accountable so many times, and I'm mad that it took so many times for me to start.
To get it.
No, not even to get it. To begin to get it, because I still don't get it.
What do you mean? What don't you get?
But I will never. I will
no,
never.
I'm interested. I think male perspective is
I will
important.
never fully know. I will never know what it's like to be a woman. I will never know that. Never know that physicality, that reality. I will never know that. So I'm beginning to unlearn my sexisms, my misogyny, and I'm beginning to learn more about patriarchy. It's uncomfortable, right? But I'm trying to learn more. But I have been the cat caller. I've been the hunker. I've done the kisses. I was like 17.
Why?
I didn't.
Done the kiss.
No, I want to explore that.
I didn't.
You know?
I think I was. It was definitely before I was 18 for sure.
Right.
I didn't.
Right.
No, the kisses before 18. The other stuff before 22.
6 months ago.
Last week.
Earlier today.
I didn't see it as a harmful thing. I didn't see it as a type of violence. I didn't conceptualize it that way. However, had it been a white person doing something to me that could maybe somehow equate to the type of violence that is blowing kisses or catcalling, I would have interpreted that very differently.
Yeah.
And I think especially for men of color, who oftentimes in conversations that I'm involved in don't get it, are quick to address racism, but not as quick to address sexism, homophobia, anti-LGBTQ. And I think sometimes drawing those parallels, I think, is extremely important for us to begin to start thinking about these things at least. And I hate to say it like that, but it's unlearning a lot of the things that we've been habituated and trained to think like. I don't know.
That's the point. I mean, it's just to eradicate all the things that we're taught, because most of it was conducted by old white dudes who had nothing better to do than obviously to like run a fucking muck of the entire world.
Syphilis, murder.
Like just all of it. And so I think what we're all trying to do is unlearn systems of oppression, which include violence against women.
Absolutely.
And honestly, I think violence against women is definitely like a non-race age thing, but I do think that there are violence in addition to also race, which I don't know if we even have time to like talk about that, which is fine.
Yeah, part 3.
It might have to be, because I feel like violence against women, black women, is a very different experience than I think for like white women. Especially white women with like blonde hair, blue eyes, who can cry about anything and everyone gives a shit. But if a black woman, particularly a darker skinned black woman, the idea of strength and resilience is already attached to us when we come out. We don't even get to be children in this country. The moment we are maybe 10, our breasts, hips, and everything else seems to want to develop, and we're no longer deemed as children, we're no longer deemed as innocent and worthy of our experiences and not being silenced. And I think that looks very different for a lot of different reasons for other women. And so there's also that part that always has a pivotal point for me, because I'm always like, that sucks.
When is the last time that you've seen an article about those like 50 black women and girls who went missing in DC? And yet there are 20-year anniversaries of the murder of
all of them.
No, but there's one, and I can't think of her name, and I hope someone jumps in the comments. She was, Benet Ramsey. 25 years ago, every 5-year increment, there's an anniversary, and someone has an idea of what happened to her, and we're so concerned. But when is the last time, from about 6 months ago, that like literally 30 black women just disappeared, that you've seen an article about?
I actually read a lot of articles about that, and according to, it was in Washington D.C., right?
Our nation's capital.
DC.
Our nation's capital.
That was actually, there was actually proof fake news, because that's what I read. That it has had. There were a lot of.
She's such a Perseverance Fox.
But even I think the concept is the most important thing.
The point is well taken.
Yes,
absolutely.
like the concept is we think about it for a second, and they're hashtag, and then we forget about that.
I forgot which country it was, where 300
Yeah.
Missing girls.
Children were
But
children.
Boko Haram, yeah, and they have returned.
That-
They returned like 100 of them last year.
And we never talk about it, but then it's a 25-year anniversary of what happened to Benet Ramsey.
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
and
that's crazy.
Yeah, and the violence is
Also,
is
the violence
widespread,
women
but
like experience. Like I'm thinking about like the research. Like I read something that I thought was really interesting. I was like, there's different physical violence in different parts of the world, but
Yeah.
like so they were like in Europe they use more like knives and like fire, whereas in like Eurasia, or not Eurasia, I'm sorry, Southeast Asia, where like it was they use more lamps, broomsticks, and not like pitchforks, but basically like kind of like a pitchfork thing. And I was like, wow, there's like studies on the differences of violence on women, and there's also differences in the way women like the physiological effects, because if it's intimate partner violence, which is a whole different beast.
Yeah.
Women have different physiological effects. If
Quickly.
it's just gender-based violence.
One of my classmates saying, Almi, saying that women are resilient is ignoring the toxic environment that is the reason for our resilience.
Yeah.
I agree.
I mean, that's
There's
facts.
always a talk on like a girl and like what you can endure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think the assumption that black women just can endure so much is the reason for the silence.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to say, kind of historicizing it, I think you said it was systematic. When we think about at least slavery, right, in the United States, if a woman who was a slave was to reject the master, right, that's a no-go. She's dead on sight. It's a no-go. At the turn of the 20th century, you had a lot of lynchings regarding Mexicans. I mean, there was an article I read regarding, it was at the same rate. Mexicans were lynched at the same rate as black folks. Not as many, but at the same rate.
Yeah.
Most of those were women who were raped. And why were they raped? Well, because they did not... Sorry, why were they lynched? Was because they did not want to be raped by a white man.
Yeah.
So when they rejected the white man, they would actually end up lynching them, right? I think it was an article published by Harvard. So this is very much systematic. It's nothing new.
Like, that's
I don't have to
literally
tell you
not
this.
shocking.
I don't have to tell you this.
whatsoever.
Which
Yeah.
is sad. That none of us are like, oh my god.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're
Really
kind of like,
sad.
I know.
And I'm thinking about all the Native American women who were like, get the fuck out of here with your Tom ass. Like, you don't even know how to cook. Like, you can't do anything for this place. I digress.
The reason I exist, right? So I would be considered a mestizo, someone who's mixed of Native American, European, black ancestry. It's very much mixed, but the reason for my existence is because of rape.
Yeah.
Right? And like many people from Latin America who actually don't acknowledge that. There's an entire existence, entire nationalities because of the violence
Absolutely.
against women. Right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But yeah, where were we? So much.
I feel like there's a lot of comments.
There's been a lot of comments. Unfortunately, I haven't gotten to all of them.
Okay.
There are a lot of comments.
Do you want to take a minute to scroll through some of them?
Yeah, let me see what's going on here. Okay, I did want to ask you something.
Okay.
One guy said.
That's true.
Wait. Y'all like, that's true.
One guy said, but it's really difficult to be a guy. Comma. Okay, hold on.
Whoa. I'm sorry.
Oh, not tonight.
And what context was that?
No, let him finish. Maybe has a point.
It was around the topic of chivalry. It's really difficult to be a guy. It's hard to be a chivalrous man. He said, been turned down just because you tell someone they are beautiful, and someone responded with, I totally disagree with you, fella. We make it more difficult than it needs to be. He said, I don't know if that's a we thing. Certain of us make it hard for others. Real quick, it's like when you say something about racism and all white people get offended.
Yeah.
It's like I wasn't talking about you. I was talking about in a generality.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do y'all think?
I think sometimes, like, it's just not meant to be. Like, if in this... No, and that
true,
sounds
like,
funny, but in all seriousness, if in this moment I'm just not interested, then I'm just not interested. Like, I might be having a bad day. It really may just be me, and you could high-key be my soulmate, and maybe we meet later or whatever. But at the same time, I think that men have an issue with rejection.
Yes.
I'm just not into it. I don't give a fuck how nice or how sweet or how whatever you're being. I'm having a shitty day.
Yeah.
I don't feel cute. I may be on the first day of my period. I could be breaking out. Any of these factors.
I could
Like,
be having a great day.
and I just don't
Exactly,
feel
I
like
just don't want
talking.
to.
Like,
But
like
you know?
I'm just not here for it. So stop trying to like force me with your sweetness and your kindness to do something that I just don't feel like doing today.
I also think I have to circle this back to just like toxic masculinity, where like it's unfortunate to
Can you
me.
define that real quick? We haven't really defined it. Do you mind? Please, just
Go
a
ahead.
lot of
Quick,
guys don't know
2
what that is.
seconds. 2
I
seconds.
didn't know what that was for at least a couple months ago
We
Well,
know.
why don't you give me the definition?
because this isn't my panel.
Nervously pours wine.
I don't know if I have like the correct terminology
It's okay. Like, how do
for
you
it, 'cause
interpret
I
it?
just
It's not about correctness. How do you interpret
Toxic
it?
masculinity is why men are trash.
it is. I think toxic masculinity is just another system of oppression that has forced systematic learning to men that what being a man is and what it looks like, which usually is like tough and boys be boys, and you're gonna want sex, and you have raging hormones, and that you're in charge, and that you do these things and women do these things, and
you're
you
not allowed to feel.
you're not supposed to
Unless
cry.
it's anger.
cry.
If
You have
it's
to
anger, if it's
feel.
anger, you're good.
You're not allowed to be able to have diverse conversations about your emotions. You're not allowed to be vulnerable. And it shows up in all types of ways. I think there are women who also participate in toxic masculinity narratives or toxic masculine narratives, right? About the type of men that they're looking for, which then perpetuates how men treat women, right? Because there are mixed messages. You know, you have a mother who is like, you're supposed to take care of a woman, and you're supposed to be the leader of the household, and you're getting all of this information and dialogue from a woman. Yes, it is equally as toxic as hearing it from a man. So the point is that it's a system that affects all of us. Toxic masculinity affects all of us. Patriarchy affects all of us because it is a system designed to make sure that the people who need to be below are below, and the people who are on top are on top. We are now in a place where that's bullshit and no one has time for it because it doesn't work. If it worked, it would still be functioning. And while it is functioning, it is slowly crumbling, and I am so ready for somebody to just like snatch it at its roots, because I just don't feel like it has ever served a real purpose that has led us anywhere.
There was a question here. There was a question about Disney. And about
I'm curious.
About
Disney.
and about violence against women.
Okay.
One example is Disney glorifies Pocahontas. Pocahontas being a 12-year-old little Native American
What
girl
an awkward Disney
who was
movie.
abducted and raped, right, and taken to Europe. Someone else said, "What about the person, the frog?" Right? And I think their argument is here that it's a type of violence against women. In this case, racialized and ethnic women.
Yeah.
But and this is pressured by Disney. But we're not looking at it that way. What are your thoughts?
I think you throwing the word Disney around means absolutely nothing. There are tons of cartoons that perpetuate very racist stereotypes. So when you say something like, "Oh, Disney made this," okay, so of course people. The real issue here is that there are people in these boardrooms and people in these positions that all look like one thing that everyone agrees to. So when you don't have, and I don't even want to say diversity, but diversity, when you don't have diverse perspectives, exactly, then you have things like the Shea Moisture campaign and the Pepsi commercial that only show one viewpoint. So when we have a country that still celebrates Columbus Day and we have the day off, of course there's shit like Disney that people buy into, like Pocahontas, and that glorify like John Adams coming to rescue her, and oh my god, they're in love, blah blah, and that push the narratives that you want people to understand and to believe and to grow like fond to. You know what I mean?
But it's also like pop culture. What does pop culture stem from? Culture. So what's going on in the culture right now? You know, I think we are going to a more progressive light. There's going to be more diverse characters, and it's a slow progress. You said something about like snatching it at its roots. Like, it's not going to happen like that. You know, you know, it's
wishful thinking.
I learned a new word lately. Deracinate. It's to snatch it at its roots.
To deracinate.
Deracinate it. Okay.
Dinosaur.
Vocab.
I don't know. I think I was more angry that the princess was a frog most of the movie than anything.
Is that a type? So please speak on that. Is that a type of violence?
I just think
I would consider it a type of violence.
I think it was, in my opinion, it was more of like a racist type of violence against her character in a sense of like, we gonna acknowledge that she's black because we need to like stop these black folks from complaining about there being no black princess.
Yeah.
We're also gonna turn her into a little green frog for 80% of the movie. So it wasn't about like her as a woman in a sense, right? I think even the storyline of her character, she was hardworking. I mean, there were some annoying parts, right? Like she wasn't an actual princess. Like she was, she was a hardworking, lost her father, like, which is a lot of the narratives of all the Disney movies, right? But she was hardworking. She was working for herself. She had goals. She had dreams, which she ended up accomplishing. Basically, was going to accomplish with or without marrying Naveen or whatever.
Yeah.
So it had its complexes for me because I'm like, it's a great positive message in the sense of like hard work, dedication could possibly get you these things. You will face adversity and so on and so forth. You also can't do it as a black woman, is what I felt. Right? You can't get those things being a black woman. What you have to be is disguised as some other shit and then have like all of those successes. So that was the end result for me.
I like that.
And so I was like, so she gonna work her ass off to not be able to get that shit until she's a little fucking frog? Y'all got me fucked up. I didn't see it as like a sexist thing. I was like, so she just can't be black the whole movie?
Yeah.
She got to be a frog. She can't even be like a lion.
Yeah.
No, she had to be a damn frog. So I was.
That's a word.
That was more of my
That's
thing.
a word.
That's
a word.
But I think that also, and correct me if I'm wrong,
No.
the intersectionality of it, right?
Yeah.
I wonder what would have happened if it would have been a male, a black man. Would have he been reduced to a frog for 80% of the movie? Maybe to a lion. We don't know, right? But so I could it be maybe that's a little bit of both?
Have you seen Frozen?
No.
I've never seen Frozen.
Frozen,
I'm more
I
of
fell
90s
asleep
Disney.
during one of it, but it's
Yeah.
been 4 years and I still listen to the soundtrack. Shout out to my niece. But what I get from the movie is basically like the main guy, right, that like is marrying Anna or something. One of the guys is gay. That's what I know from like the movie. One of the guys
Openly
is
gay in the movie?
Like at the end, there's like a subtle hint that he's actually gay. Is my subtle hint, but everyone's white in the movie, so it's kind of like okay.
So,
fantastic. Like Disney can only do one thing at one time. Like they can only focus like on one
There's
thing.
no intersection.
We have a
like,
question.
at all.
We have a question here.
Okay.
And two things real quick. There was actually an article about how a Goofy movie, the girl who Max likes, I forget her name.
Yeah. Roxanne.
Roxanne. She was like the first black Disney princess. So y'all check that out.
The movie was pretty good.
Roxanne was high key black.
She was
Yeah.
like, they were all black. Girl, that
That movie.
movie was about black
that movie
people,
was
even the artists
fascinating.
in it. All the R&B and shit. Come on now.
It was
Tevin
Tevin
Campbell.
Yeah.
Everybody was black.
They was doing hood shit. They were black as fuck.
The second part that I want to say is that this conversation is extremely heteronormative. I do want to say that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I need to do a better job at disrupting heteronormativity on the show. And,
What's that mean?
when everything is based off heterosexuals, the heterosexuality is the norm, right? So everything else juxtaposed to that is othered, right? So I definitely need to do a better job at disrupting that. So I do want to say that because I think that's important. And we have a question or comment. Quake Speak says, there's a hidden agenda on most shows and movies that the black woman needs saving by the white man. If not a white man, he is a fair-skinned black man. Thoughts? Real quick, before we get into it, I do have a issue with the idea of fair-skinned. Because that means someone is unfair-skinned. Right? If you have a fair-skinned person, then there's an unfair-skinned person. And this gets us back into this racist kind of essentialism of people. So that was just kind of my 2 cents, but just kind of thoughts on that.
Well, colorism is real.
Absolutely.
And so, while I think that dark skin versus light skin and what you're saying is very real, but colorism is a global issue, right?
Oh, for
There
sure.
Indian, like literally people in India and Honduras and all these places.
Okay, I see what the
You
pronunciation.
know what I'm saying? Stop. But like in all those places,
so extra.
they face all this adversity because of colorism. Yes. So like, yes, but we should also, just the same that we're deciding to talk about violence against women, we should also be willing to talk about what people face based on the spectrum of color.
Absolutely.
Because it's just very real.
But that gets us down again to this white supremacy.
Of course, that's also
Yeah.
system of oppression. But what was the question?
About
Wait, answer your question, boo.
about black
I
women
meant you
needing
caught
to
the whole.
be
I meant you
saved
caught
by
the whole
white.
question out.
I am serious. I appreciate a little love and support in this room.
All right,
It's
so
about
all right, so
black
real quick,
women needing
real
to be
quick. Sorry,
that
but we have 3 minutes. Yeah, I did. We have 3 minutes left because you know Instagram cuts off after the first hour.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we have about 3 minutes left. So I'm gonna go ahead and end it before we get kicked off.
So would you gonna restart it again?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. It's been a while. I ain't watched
Clearly
it.
you don't tune in.
Wow, someone's not a viewer.
It's at 9.
It's okay. None of y'all go. Anyway.
happy hour.
Kayla.
I like having
Says
stuff
she
on this
like
side of the
having
camera.
it.
Everybody's loving y'all. People were talking about bring you back. Yeah. So,
You're such a
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
I would watch
yeah.
her. Not just you, but.
But.
You
Anyway,
answered
so
the question,
anyways,
though.
so
Yo, hers is gonna turn into the tech guy of Woke Wednesdays.
The cameraman.
But wait, we didn't answer this question. Are we gonna like save it?
yes, so yeah,
Okay.
we're gonna get back at this question in the next
And you
slide.
start over?
All right,
Alright,
so okay, I'm going.
Or you put my
Tech
one
guy.
Alright.
I need to